and we're rolling.
Hello, everyone. So today in the studio we have Paul and Hector from Vib'n here in Tucson. Thanks for being in, guys.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about a handful of topics that are relevant to small businesses and small business owners. So I'm glad you guys are here. I'm definitely interested to get your perspective on some of these things and first learn a little bit about
Yeah,
Vib'n.
absolutely. We're super excited you're both here today. We really want to learn about Vib'n, learn about the history of Vib'n, how you guys started it, what you guys do, and tell us a little bit about yourselves as well.
Thank you for inviting us, and we're super excited to be here with you guys. We know you for a while already and know exactly what you guys do and provide for the community, and thank you for inviting us and being here today.
Cool. Yeah, no, we're really grateful.
So tell us a little bit about what you guys do at Vib'n, like Sal said, how you started it, and how you interact with the business community.
Man, so you want to take this one or should
Go.
I take it? All right. Vib'n started about actually coming up on 4 years ago, so August 1st will be our 4-year anniversary.
Awesome.
And honestly, Vib'n started with two best friends who got together on a Sunday afternoon to cook dinner and just shoot ideas and bounce back and forth. We both had different things going on. I was trying to start a design company, and Paul was working on local apps for businesses. And we reached a point where we're just like, we always vibe together. We love what we're about. Kind of our principles and values and stuff kind of aligned. And we're like, hey, let's just do something. And that's how Vib'n started evolving. The problem or the need that we saw was when social media started to get, I don't know if it was really popular or just a lot of engagement, we started seeing, negativity and just, all the fight back from what was going on. And we wanted to produce something that was like positive. So we wanted to create positive content.
Yeah, I think it was much needed. I think it still is needed.
Probably now more than ever.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it like Hector's was saying, like we have evolved from just creating content, our thoughts put into a picture, then move and evolve into actually using our quotes in the community by volunteering, working with youth, working with kids. But then it was a natural transition going into the business aspect of it. Hector has a lot of experience around sales. I have a lot of experience around talent development, recruiting, hiring. On my previous job, worked 15 years on retail. Hector worked a bunch of years as well in sales. So we both had that mindset already on how to be able to help businesses. So it came naturally for us to create workshops or courses that we can actually help businesses, because one of the biggest things that businesses go through is hard to find is talent.
Sure.
And if you find the right person for the right job, then your life becomes a lot easier as a business owner. But it's a unique skill to be able to find that talent, but everybody has the capability of learning something new or being interested in something. But even as a business owner, you have to show the people that are working with you what is for them next. They have another position they can go in within your company, or you're just training them for them to jump to another business
what's
venture.
the upward mobility, so to speak?
Correct. What's next? So I think that's how we started. So basically our two focuses working with youth, creating workshops, and then coaching and developing small businesses.
And I want to add something too, because I think kind of sometimes we tend to lose sight of it. But when we started, we didn't start with the idea of creating a business.
I know. I remember when you guys first started, I would be like, who the heck are these guys and what are they doing? Like you guys, I would see you guys at events, and it's like you guys always look like you were having more fun than everyone else. Like I was like, I don't know what they're doing, but it's a lot cooler than what I'm doing.
It's a vibe.
We see that quite a bit, where a lot of folks, they start doing something, and all of a sudden they realize, like, oh wow, you know what? This could be a business. There could be some money to be made. Where I think, what ends up happening is that they potentially could stumble because they don't have any of that business background or any training, or they don't know where to go. And it sounds like that's something that you guys are starting to kind of fill that need.
Yes. Like Hector said, like when we started, we didn't know we had a business. We knew we had a movement.
It was the vibe. I remember at that time when it was just about like the whole positive, and especially in a community like Tucson, right? Like we're a more closely knit community, I think, from a business perspective, but we're a smaller city. It's the type of place where you always know somebody who knows somebody, and then you have, people in common.
Right.
And I remember at that time, you're right. I think it was just one of those things where there was this pushback against all the negativity out there. So it totally was just Vib'n or the vibe at the beginning, and people were responsive to that. And then it sounds like from there you were able to say like, hey, yeah, we got some traction here just based on the energy. And I know you guys were always doing stuff like with youth and in the community,
Right.
but then it sounds like from that, then the business aspect grew out of that too, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where it came. We didn't even know what we had back then. We know we were good with people. We know we were, wanting to make an impact in the community and empower others. And so I think when we started getting involved with different organizations like, Local First Arizona, the YWCA, the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, I think there was a couple of high schools that we started doing our workshops on. And it just started, we knew we had something, and we started just kind of seeing which door was open and started capitalizing on those strengths that we had.
Yeah, and then just going back to Sal's point and everybody, right? Even today, some people ask, like, what do you guys do? And it's true. Like, our messaging has been always around providing value by putting a positive quote or doing something. But now in the last 2 years, we've seen this engagement that it comes from a youth perspective and a small business perspective, that you can use your mindset to adapt to whatever is happening right now, especially right now with COVID. I mean, if you're a business, it's the time to change. Like whatever you did even 6 months ago, it probably is not going to work again. So what are you doing? You have to have an open mindset to be able to adapt to any situation that's happening right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of businesses today, in the midst of this COVID pandemic, are really thinking about how do they pivot. And a lot of times it's not a big shift. It could be just small things that need to be changed or adjusted. Anthony and I talk about that quite a bit, where, we're constantly letting our clients know, hey, take a look at where you can make some tweaks, and potentially those tweaks, and in the environment that we're in today, because most likely this is going to be, for lack of a better term, right, the new normal going forward. So you might as well go ahead and tweak right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're like into topic one here, which is this topic of mindset.
Right.
Like you already brought that up, right? Like being in this mindset, whether it's with COVID, now we got to tweak some things, just because of the new world we're in with, the business landscape changing, right? People aren't out there at office spaces or out in public engaging as much. The way you sell or provide goods and services is different than it was a few months ago. But along those lines, talk a little bit more about, that mindset of constantly having to be evolved, being willing to tweak. You had mentioned earlier, Paul, like hand in hand with that concept is, okay, so you've always got to be learning. You've always got to be open to new ideas, learning. Talk to us about how you guys interact with businesses around that idea related to mindset of constantly evolving, learning, and what you see out there in terms of, as people do this. To us, it's always seemed like the ones that are receptive to that change are the ones that can continually replicate success.
Absolutely. I think having an open mindset, especially if you're a business owner, is critical. We consulted with businesses that have been doing business for 15, 20 years, and everything they've done in the past, something has worked and has worked for 20, 15 years. But now you have to be open to adjust and see what other opportunities are there. Like Sal said just right now, tweak something. Maybe you never put attention to social media. Now it's probably your main marketing tool that you have.
Exactly.
You never had an importance of putting a website up. Now people need to know to find you out there where your services are, what times are you operating, are you open or not. And definitely when it comes back to that is that delegating part as a business owner, to be able to have your mindset open to train your staff to be successful. I think before, even prior to today is happening though, a lot of companies are probably not going to go back to work to your regular office, or a lot of people are just going to be working from home. So from that, have you trained your staff correctly to solve problems by themselves? Because we were always used to being in the office environment.
Walk over to this guy's desk.
Like, hey, can you fix it? And what do? As a business owner? You fix it, or as a manager or a supervisor, You fix the problem because you're there. But now that you have a responsibility for somebody that's in their home by themselves, how they're going to be able to solve that problem.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think when we're in the physical office spaces, it's really easy not to train people to like critically think and problem solve, but like now there's no option.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to jump on a Zoom meeting every 5 minutes, which I don't think that's going to
Right,
work.
and I think, what's happened is that a lot of these businesses, they've been around for a long time. They started doing things, say 20, 25 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it may be. And they were doing things kind of the newest way that they could do it. And that was the technology that they had available at that time. And it works, and it'll continue to work until something like this happens, where there's a shift in the economy or a shift in the market, where now all of a sudden you need to really take advantage of the newer technologies and kind of retrain, retool not only the people that work for you, but kind of everything that you use, all the items, the tools that you use in your business, because you're going to have to take advantage of that. There's no choice. You really don't have a choice now, especially with the way things are changing.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, from Sal, Anthony, and Paul, what you're talking about is that the biggest thing is that these entrepreneurs, these business owners, whether they're one employee or 50 employees, whatever it may be, it's trust. Like that's when it gets to delegating, right? So it's trust, and then it's having the humility to remove your ego and go back to learning. Because us as business owners, sitting at this round table or this table right here, is we wear multiple hats, or we've had to at one point or another, right?
Yeah.
To be able to adapt and pivot. And I think it's having those experiences it's easier to create change.
Yeah.
And when you've done something for so long, it's hard to break that habit.
Right.
It is. It's really hard to break old habits. I think you brought up another good buzzword, which is like ego, right? Which we all have egos. 100%. We're all guilty of it. I think in business, a lot of entrepreneurs tend to what propels them to entrepreneurship is that kind of like they've got that burning desire and ambition, right? And a lot of times what comes with that is inevitably a little bit ego. You kind of need that fearless bravado, so to speak, sometimes. But you're right. Then you've got to kind of like check it to be able to learn new skills. But like you said, Hector, you got to be able to delegate and trust people. Yeah. Because if you can't, it's impossible to wear all those hats.
Yeah.
You can't do it alone.
Absolutely. Right. I think even for us as a business, this year, in January, we had our retreat, and we were like, all right, so what are my strengths? What are Hector's strengths? All right, let's divide the company, and you take care of one part of the business. I take care of the other one. But I know I can trust him to do his part of the business, same as he can trust myself to be able to do it. So if you're a business with 6, 7, 8 employees, what can you delegate, but what can you teach for them to be able to be successful for that? And everybody, one question that we always have, I'm afraid to teach them everything because they're probably going to take my idea. They're going to steal my idea. And I was like,
okay,
no.
So what do you, this is good. Tell me how you guys respond
what I tell them,
this is good.
I tell them, okay, credit, yes, the probably has happened a million times.
Sure.
Absolutely. But if you show your talent and your staff, there is a way for them to grow within your company. Mm-hmm. You provide value. You continue to teach them and educate them to be better at their work. And then they can use those tools outside the workplace. They will stay for you forever because they believe in your mission. And they believe on what you're trying to accomplish, and they know they're a critical part of your growth. It's not just you growing, it's them growing with you. So I always tell them, think about yourself. If you had 6 people like you with the same knowledge, what will you be able to what are you capable to do?
Well, to kind of add what Paul's saying, to emphasize, hooking back the mindset, right, to that specific point, we go, so what? So what if they take your knowledge and they're going to go and open another business?
Because that's always my response. It's are you scared of that?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's going to stop them, right? You have you can't keep them there no matter what. The thing is, if you take care of your employees, they're going to take care of your business. But on the flip side is we tell them so what? They're going to go start another business. No one has your secret sauce. No one can do what you do because you started your business for a reason. Same thing as with you, Anthony. No one can do what you do. I can try to do it. You can teach me everything that you know, and I can go open my other accounting business, but I'm not going to give the same customer service. I'm not going to treat people the same way.
Yeah.
No,
And I think a lot of what you guys do, and I've noticed this since day one, right? That I think when you interact, you two personally, when you interact with business owners, I think what you're doing is you're giving them the confidence to make these changes, right? Giving them the appropriate vibe, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, kind of telling them, building them up a little bit, letting them know, hey, here's what can be done. Here's how to do it. And you can do this. You know what I mean? Because I've seen you guys interact
that's
with
your
other,
secret sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I could say the same thing, but I'll scare the heck out of somebody like with my approach. But I think for you guys, what you guys do really well is you kind of you disarm people in terms of taking away that fear factor, right? Like, hey, this isn't that scary. You don't have to worry if somebody's going to run off to replicate the idea. You don't have to be afraid of failure. You don't need to. Here's the other thing I've always noticed you guys do really well. You make people comfortable about things they don't know, right? Because we're all embarrassed sometimes, like me included, Sal. We only know what we know, but then there's certain areas, especially in business, like we don't know a lot about, and it's kind of like, ooh, I don't want to let on that I don't know that because it's like it's kind of embarrassing or it's kind of. But you guys, I've noticed part of your sweet spot in working with businesses has been like, hey, everybody, like let's calm down, let's be open. You create kind of that trust factor where people can say like, yeah, you know what? I don't really know how that works. I don't really know how to communicate how much I value my employees to them. Show me that.
Right.
I'm willing to do that because I see that there's value that can come back to me as the business. But yeah, you've got to kind of like disarm them and kind of break down that wall so that they feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, when we start with any part of consulting with any business, we tell them from the get-go, this is going to be probably one of the hardest things you've ever done, because it's something that our service is not something that you see right away. It's something that it takes time, it takes practice. It is that process of changing habits. So we tell them, like, we start with fear, but then fear is going to turn into doubt. Then doubt is going to turn into action, and then action is going to turn into results. Mm-hmm. So if you follow our steps and our consulting, that's what's going to happen. And we've seen results like that people at first, the first month, honestly, first 2 months are the working on the mindset. Oh, absolutely. And they just continue to do. And I'm like, but then you see little tweaks and little results. And they're like, so you probably used, honestly, like 10% of what we told you so far. Yeah. And you saw an increase or retention that it actually did happen. Now imagine if you used 20 to 30% and change what you're doing.
It's like our brains, right?
Yeah.
I only use like 20% of our brains. And
Absolutely.
You're right.
So, and
small changes that can get really, even small changes in habits and some of this stuff can produce like pretty big results.
Well, and I think the biggest thing too is that nothing happens overnight, right? It's not like instant gratification. And it's a process, like Paul said, it's part of the journey. Like we've all been in that first step. Like we've all got an experience over a certain period of time to be able to apply to continue to keep growing, making mistakes, failing, overcoming obstacles, and then having your wins along the way, right? And I think getting them to understand that, especially like when we're consulting with them, even on that first point where it's like kicking and screaming and crying, and it's like making them feel so uncomfortable, but getting them to understand that like, yeah, you can pay us to come and consult for a full month for however many hours, but this is the long game.
Right.
Like we're in business for the long game, right? Especially if we love what we do, which we totally do. And I think that's the thing, to get them to shift that perspective, that growth mindset, to understand that. Because what they're doing with us is that they're making an investment for their business.
Sure.
Yep.
The other thing that we've talked about before, and we've been talking about that thus far with regard to businesses that have employees. But there are a lot of small businesses out there where it's just, one person, kind of that entrepreneur that's on his own and could potentially generate quite a bit of revenue just on his or her own.
Correct.
However, they still need kind of that support, right? Mm-hmm. That support group, whether it's a team of professionals or whatever. Do you talk about that with your clients in terms of when you're consulting with them and how to do it without employees?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, And one of the big examples is you guys. Like, you guys are one of our resources.
Sure.
Yeah, we can look at numbers, but that's not our expertise. So we delegate that to somebody else that actually has the experience in certain areas that we can touch upon and talk about it, but we're not the experts on that matter. Mm-hmm. So it's rather you find that support that is going to be able to help you. But especially when you're an entrepreneur and you are by yourself, yes, we have to wear a million hats, but at the same time, you have to look for those people that are like-minded like you, or look for the resource that's going to help you be able to grow your business or your idea.
Yeah. And I think to add on to that too is it's the power of community, right? It's what social currency is all about, and building your network. So if you are a solopreneur, you have to build up that network of resources.
Yeah.
Like the people that you reach out to, the people that if you can't do something, that you're going to play to their strengths, and they're the ones that are going to help you to be able to push your business forward. And so it's the same thing, like whether they had employees or not, you can treat them like employees, but you have to have your team that's going to have your back, essentially.
Yeah. Sal's really big on the team. Sal loves his, but it's true. I mean, Sal always uses the analogy with business owners of, like the elite athlete who wins, the golf tournament or whatever. And then it's like, I want to thank my stretching coach, my swing coach, my strength coach, my, my therapist, so it's like you're saying, it's this team of here's what's cool. I always thought was cool about Tucson specifically is because we're more community oriented. And there are these organizations like you guys mentioned before, whether it's, Local First or Startup Tucson or Young Entrepreneurs Groups or the Chambers of Commerce or the community hubs are there to go to. And then when you go there, there's resources that you can plug into, right? So like we always tell people, clients will ask us, questions sometimes, and they're like more of like legal in nature, and we're like, yeah, that's not, I can give you my 2 cents, but that's kind of dangerous because I'm not an attorney. But we tell them no, you should have an attorney. Doesn't have to be an expensive firm or 400. There are attorneys out there here in Tucson that just like you guys specialize in working with the small to medium-sized local businesses, and so do we. There are attorneys that do that.
Yep.
There are insurance agents that do that. There are marketing firms, digital or otherwise, that do that.
Right.
Those resources are out there to access those people. Yeah, I think you're 100% right. You have to, just like with an employee, you have to be connected to that person. You have to,
align, whatever it may be, right?
You got to be
the vibes.
But they're out there. They're out there.
Yeah.
So you can build that team.
Right.
If you're open-minded to knowing that, like you guys said, I think you hit on a couple really good things. One, you can't do it all, right? So you're going to have to delegate and trust at some point. 2, you can't let your ego get in the way.
Yep.
So, no, that's great. So here's the last topic we want to pick your brain on and go a little in depth on this. And I know you guys spend a lot of time talking about systems and processes, or just the importance of being process oriented with the clients you work with. And I know a big part of that is for the sake of, like you said, Hector, being able to delegate and trust employees, which means you got to teach them, which inevitably means in order to teach them, you got to give them a system or process so that
Right.
Talk to us about that and what you guys tell clients.
Absolutely. I think going back, right, one of the hardest part is to be able to find the right person for the right job. But when you find that person, maybe that person leaves because you don't have anything to train them with. They have no guide for them to be able to do their job successfully. So are you set them up for success, or you just need a body there? So that's the main difference between one or the other. A lot of our clients, when we talk, unfortunately not have any type of process. They're like, I need 4 people because the people that I have right now, all of them are just like horrible. They do not work. And then we're like, wait, so tell me, what have you shown them? Like, how do you train them? Well, I just tell them what to do. Yeah, but do you have something in writing, like something they can follow? Like day 1, first week, this is what you do. Week 2, this is what you do. Week 3 is what you do. Then you let them fly by themselves. A lot of them don't do that, don't even have that. So it's a huge part of the business to be able to have those type of systems and process for them to be able to retain that talent and then develop that talent at the same time.
Right.
And I think when you get them to understand that, one, they're losing dollars because they're just not efficient,
Yeah.
or they can be more efficient, right? So you have time to take care of more clients or customers or reach your audience if you're able to have those systems in place, those processes, because then you can hire more employees. You can be able to go into a different market. You can be able to expand. And that's the thing that we try to get them to understand, that it's all an investment. Because even though it's going to be hard and it's going to take so much time in the beginning, but once you have that system or that process in place, like, it's going to be like a well-oiled machine that you have to just do maintenance on every once in a while to keep it going from running, right?
Yeah, it's a perfect analogy. Yeah. I think business owners, again, we're guilty of it too, right? We forget about that a lot, right? Like,
Same.
I think it's, you can have it. You nailed this when you said, Hector, you're going to create efficiency, and therefore you're going to be able to serve more customers or clients. You're going to do more volume, and ultimately it's going to translate into more dollars and profit, which every business owner understands that. They're like, oh yeah, more dollars?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening now. But you get lost in that on the day-to-day basis, and you don't realize it's much easier to say, hey, I'm going to take $1,000 and throw it at a marketing campaign, right? Where really, you're right, the better investment probably to make is not so much necessarily an extra marketing, it's just tightening up the systems and processes so that the business gets more efficient and makes more money with the stuff you're already doing.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
one of the things that we encounter too is that they do have systems already. But they are systems that have been applied 20, 15 years ago.
Sure.
So a kid right now that you hire, they're not going to apply that same method of learning because it's so outdated for them. So as a business owner, you have to adapt to the new generations to see how you're going to be able to train that new member in your staff. Not bashing our millennials, but everybody has.
Oh, talk to me about this. Yeah. No, this is good.
So,
talk about how
everybody. So everybody like hates working with millennials, and I work with a bunch of them. But even myself, I had to adapt the way that I teach them and coach them on how to train.
Sure.
So basically,
say that again.
Yeah,
say that like one more time for people listening.
That I work with millennials, a bunch of millennials, and they're great people to work with. I mean, honestly. But I had to learn a way to be able to teach them and show them their value of what they do. Before, and I'm going to include myself in this, they used to tell me, this is your job. They didn't ask questions. I just did my job and never complained. Now they have to have a reason behind why they're doing their job. So myself as a business owner or a manager or HR director, I had to adapt to the way that I ask questions and the way that I train. So even I was like, hey, can you help me do this? They're like, why? Well, if you do this, it's going to produce this result. And if you do this result, it's going to help us make our week. And if we make our week, then I have more hours to give you for you to work. Oh, so now it's a consequence of their action and the result.
And I think too, the other thing that's unique and positive about millennials and that up and coming workforce is that not only do they want to understand why they're doing something, right? Like you mentioned, as far as they want to know why. They also want to be part of kind of the decision-making process. And a lot of that, I think, stems from a lot of these folks grew up, with their parents kind of taking them to baseball games and taking them to ballet practice and things of that nature. And every discussion that they had with their parents was more like where would you like to have dinner today? Or what would you like? It was collective. And so these folks are really used to having that conversation and being part of the decision. As where I think a lot of business owners, especially business owners that have been around for 20 years, don't have that mindset. They still have the mindset of, no, I'm going to tell you what to do.
Micromanaging.
Well, it's because I said so.
Yeah, it's because I
said so.
The
answer is because I said so. The answer to why is always because I said so. I mean, I actually think, so I'm technically not a millennial, but I actually think millennials kind of get a bummed rap. And here's why. I actually think they're really smart. I think they figured something out.
Oh, absolutely.
They figured something out that like my generation didn't figure out, which was, okay, look, I understand, and I think a lot of it is because we have just better and more access to information. But they're like, I understand the systems at play here, out in the world, out in the workplace, out in the business world, right? So they're like, so if you want me to be engaged, yeah, you got to give me my why. Like I got to feel connected to what Vib'n is doing, or else it's just a job. And I'll be honest, I can get just a job anywhere, and just a job isn't going to make me rich. Yeah. So if you really want to engage me, you know, because I think they look back and they're like, they look at the generation like me that just came directly before them, not too far removed from them, and they're like, you're that guy who was the hamster on the wheel. I'm not going out like that. I want to be engaged. It doesn't matter what my job is. It doesn't matter if it's at the lowest level. Like, I want to be engaged. Yeah. Like, this is more than just punching a clock.
Absolutely.
I don't necessarily, they're not all about the dollars. I think their lifestyles are much more minimalized, but I think they're much more engaged mentally in that. Give me the why, right?
Well, to kind of add on with what you're saying, so, obviously the dollars is just a result of whatever.
That's right.
And they don't care about service or the product. It's all about tying back to the soul of the business, which is the mission, the vision, the values, the emotion. So they want to believe in something. And before back in, let's go 80s, 70s, marketing was like, I'm going to tell you what you're going to like, and that's why you're going to like it.
Right.
Now you see all new brands, how they've shifted their focus to this more purposeful, like, business. It's all about having business with purpose. And
social
if it doesn't,
causes,
and not even, but being able to storytell, like, where you came from, and being able to storytell, the process about, people want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see what's going on, how you make your product, how you do your service. And that's why they're tied emotionally to businesses. And that's where businesses are really succeeding nowadays.
Yeah, I think that Sal brought a huge point. They just want their voice to be heard.
Yeah.
It might take a couple times for you to speak out, but somebody will listen. And if you acknowledge that they're speaking out to you, and you apply one of their ideas, as minimal as it can be, you have them forever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right about that. I think if you can get them engaged, let them know that they're part of the process, reward them, obviously, for their contributions. I think it's a win-win all the way around, because you have as Anthony mentioned, you have a very talented workforce that understands Google and the internet and all of those things.
Correct. So they're just more cognizant of things that we were just not able to be cognizant of because they weren't out there in like everybody's stream of consciousness.
I grew up playing with rocks. They play with iPads.
I tell millennials all the time, right? And it's just like I watch their heads explode. And I'm like, hey, when I was in college, I'm like, check this out. When I was in college, there was no Google. They're like, what? Yeah. So if you have to do a paper, I'm like, you have to go to the library and pull one of the cards out and get a book.
The other part of it, too, is that I think, business owners don't find really the process part of it the fun part of it.
Yeah.
I think really for them, that's really the boring part, or the part that they don't want to engage in because it's not, it's not as exciting as sales. Or marketing or coming up with that next idea. Processes are really internal, and it really, you end up having to kind of turn the mirror on yourself, on your business, to really say, well, what do I do and how do I do it?
I guess that's why you guys said, and I'm assuming that's what you meant when you said this is going to be painful, right?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, because what we do, we bring up the not mistakes, but the opportunities that exist.
Sure.
So they're like, well, I done this
They might perceive them as you calling out mistakes. Correct. You're just trying to help them identify.
Absolutely.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, if we're talking about processes and systems, like, again, going back to the mindset, like, we're teaching them to be the owner of their business, not their business to own them.
Sure.
Not to be an employee of the business.
Yep.
Yes.
So how much would you want if you could have a system or a process in place to just make residual income while you're going off doing another venture, having time with your family, being able to do stuff for your hobby? And that's what we try to teach them.
Yeah.
It's a tough, I'll tell you why it's a tough sell sometimes. It's because a lot of these folks that find themselves having small businesses have come out of kind of the corporate world, right? So they've worked a job before.
Guilty.
Yeah, right. So they've worked that job. They know, and they all of a sudden have this employee mindset where they're the worker, right? So they fall into that trap when they open up the business, in that they end up wanting to continue to be the worker, but it's just really of their own business. And you really have to shift that mindset to say, no, no, no. You are not going to be the worker in terms of working in your business, right? You want to work on your business.
Yeah.
And that's going to require having other employees do kind of the legwork at the end of the day.
Yeah. Best-selling systems and processes business book of all time is the E-Myth, right? By Gerber. And then they revised it so that there's like the E-Myth for accountants, the E-Myth for attorneys, the E-Myth for, digital marketing professionals. But the whole thing was rooted, like you said, Hector, in that idea of, no, you don't work in your business. You have to work on the business. You can't get sucked work.
Yep.
We all have to work in the business to get it going. I mean, you got to put in the reps. You got to put in the hard work.
And we're all guilty of it,
But then there becomes this point where this is what you just brought up, I think, which is like, are you just creating a job for yourself?
Yeah.
Or are you creating an actual business?
Right.
Because I know, like, just creating a job for yourself, I don't know that it ends up feeling that much different than when you were working for somebody else. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think like one of the biggest things that we actually applied and implemented when we go and do business consulting is that it's never too late.
No.
I mean, it doesn't matter how long you've been in business, if it's a year, 2, 20, 30. Honestly, like, you can change and you can adapt to whatever the circumstances is right now, especially with COVID, or just to see how can you move your business forward. Like, everybody has to do a rebrand at one point and re-strategize to see what are you doing. So one of our biggest advice for everybody that's listening right now, look at your business plan. Like right now, what have you done so far to adapt to whatever is happening right now? It might be, like Sal said, a small change, but do the change.
Right.
Do that.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Do something
Can't
for
be
it.
stagnant.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you're bringing up, in that if you haven't done anything during this pandemic, something is probably not quite right, or you're missing out on an opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you haven't done anything, because everything has changed, when it comes to a business and running a business. And so there is, this pandemic really does qualify as a reason to make a tweak.
Yep.
And I think that if you haven't done something, you're missing out on an opportunity.
Absolutely. And if you try something, if it doesn't work, you pivot and you try something else.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like a science experiment. You keep trying something until it hits, and then you adapt that system and that processes it and make it more efficient. But you keep rinse and repeat over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One more thing before we wrap up here, and I just real quick, but I don't want to have you guys in and not touch on this, just because we are here in Tucson, right? We're in the Southwest. We've got a large minority-owned business population here in Tucson, right? And I know a lot of the things you guys have done whether it's through local work first with the Tucson Hispanic Chamber, or just in general, some of the stuff you guys do with the community, or just your general outreach, the way you're out there in the community. A lot of it is you guys put a lot of intention behind engaging with minority-owned businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses, and just making some of the stuff we're talking about, just even ideas, right? Yep. Or the idea that the opportunity to come to the table, so to speak, share ideas, share feedback, ask questions, talk about how important that is to you guys, and how important it is in a place like Tucson to really engage with that part of our community, to especially because it trickles down to the youth. And we've got a lot of youth coming up through our school systems, and I want these young people to feel like they're welcome to be the future entrepreneurs, and they're going to have these resources available to them.
Absolutely. And first of all, se habla español. Doesn't anybody else? But no,
make sure you plug that your services are bilingual.
Sure.
¿Qué? Yeah. No. I think you hit so many points right there, Anthony, on our intentions in the community to be able to help, to educate, and to motivate, right? I feel that is super important to our community, especially the minority community, to get educated on how to be able to be a proper business owner, how to be able to run your business for your business not to run you, and how to reach for those resources that are available in the community. It doesn't have to be us, but there's a bunch of people that are out there that are trying to help and do kind of the same work that we're doing. So I welcome everybody to reach out to people. If you don't know something, ask. The worst question that exists is the one that you don't ask, and you'll get the answer to solve something.
And I think the biggest thing too is everything that we're trying to do, from the local businesses to the youth programs, that we try to teach with our curriculum, is adding to the whole ecosystem of Tucson, right? Obviously we understand that the youth is going to be our future. Right. Whether we like it or not, right? But still, like, it's going to be something positive, and we feel, because I see myself a lot in like how the youth was, because I had to figure a lot of things out on my own as I grew up, and so I wish that I had something that I could have connected with what Paul and I have developed, and so that's really close to my heart, both Paul as well. But I think when we're adding to the ecosystem of what's coming in the future, and then teaching the current business owners of the impact of creating that type of community and that type of help and like that type of education, that we can all help each other. The sun comes out. Paul says this all the time, and he says it in Spanish, like el sol sale para todos. Like the sun comes out for everyone. There's opportunity for everyone out there, whether you like it or not. And what we also try to teach is that competition is good. They're not your enemy. Like they build you up, they keep you in check, absolutely. They keep you to keep adapting, and I know I said keep a lot, but they pivot, they keep you to, so that you can keep evolving as a business.
Yeah, I think, any small business looks at somebody else doing and the same as you, and you want to destroy them. So what's the first thing you do? You probably lower your price so you can retain your clients. So what you're doing there, you're killing the business. Your business.
You're killing the industry. You're killing your own industry.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So we just go back like, no, don't devalue your work
100%. Because
then you have to do double the work to what the other person does with one client or two.
Right.
So is that back again to the beginning, that mindset of knowing your value as a business owner and knowing the value of your time. A lot of people think, and actually a lot of the business that we consult with, they look at the end product. Oh, I'm going to sell this product for $20.
Right.
But they don't realize, or they're not thinking that to make that product, they have to spend $15. So they only are making $5 instead of $20.
Yeah, they're not looking at the math. They're not looking at, like you're saying, don't be fixated on competing on the basis of price. And we've posted our little like videos on this. And one of the things we say is, communicate what your unique value proposition is.
Absolutely.
You can't compete. Here's the thing. As a small business, you really can't compete on the basis of price. And here's why. It's going to be hard to compete with the other small businesses, but the one thing is true, and we're talking about small business, right? Mm-hmm. But we're dumping our resources into kind of local community, small businesses. But let's be honest. The ecosystem that's out there, the majority of it is dominated by large businesses and consolidation that's happened amongst industries. And really, those are the businesses that can push price, right? Push price down because they can do the volume.
Absolutely.
For the rest of us, price is probably the last place we want to go, right? It's just going to hurt all of us.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't make any sense. So it's really about what we, as small businesses, I find, and we tell small business owners this, is really what you have to sell is your value proposition. In other words, don't buy from the big chain. Don't buy from the national brand. Don't buy from the regional. Don't buy from this guy. Buy from me. And it's not because they're bad. It's because here's why I'm good. Here's my value. Here's what I think I bring to the table.
I think a lot of it is teaching or educating those business owners on how to demonstrate
value
and market value.
Ding, ding,
how
ding,
do you
ding.
do that? I mean, and I think part of it is number one, as you mentioned, Paul, that number one, they have to understand that they are providing something that is valuable, right? They can't lower the price, meaning devalue what they're doing.
Yep.
So once they've done that, or once they realize that, hey, I am providing something of value, now the trick is, how do you demonstrate that or market that to your customer base? How do you show them, no, this is why you're going to buy from me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that Hector keeps talking about all the time is storytelling. I think for any business that is crucial. That's your lifeline. That's the way you retain your customer. That's the way you acquire new customers, is to be able to showcase what your value is, like you just mentioned. Both of you guys really mentioned. So it's definitely, that's the key to be able to sustain your business.
Yeah. Storytelling is a lost art in business.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I wanted to touch on is we do this really simple activity with the businesses when you're like, tell me the need that you're filling or tell me the problem that you're solving. Yeah. And automatically they default to describing their product or service. I'm like, no. I'm like, tell me the need or the problem that you're solving. And it's getting them to like just turn off that product or that service that they're selling and tell me what you're doing for your customers.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a fantastic message. I think that should resonate with a lot of business owners. I think that they should really focus on understanding that element. And I think it'll go a long way. Hey, it's been great, having you guys here.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in, guys. Real quick before we sign off, tell everyone how website, how they can kind of look you guys up, find your information.
Yes, actually, you got us on a super exciting moment. We're actually rebranding our website.
Okay.
So that's going to be
making the announcement here.
You guys
awesome. World exclusive.
You guys are exclusive.
So so we have our website. So our website is www.keepvibn.com. You can follow us on social media, on Instagram at Vib'n_, and then on Facebook at Keep Vib'n.
Okay.
And then if you want to reach out to Paul and myself personally, Paul's my email is hector@keepvibn.com. Same for Paul at keepvibn.com.
And for everyone listening, you'll see these guys drive. Tell them what your license plates are. You'll spot these guys driving around town.
Yeah,
there's no way they can actually miss it. So my plate actually is "Are you Vib'n?"
And Hector, what's yours?
Keep vibing. So if you see us, just honk.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Fantastic.
Thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.